A girl was crying on the sidewalk, completely broke and hopeless. Then a stranger handed her a crumpled dollar bill and smiled. That stranger changed her life completely, but the truth about that man shocked her. Who is that girl? Why is she sitting and crying on the street? Why did a stranger smile and give her money? And finally, what about that stranger shocked her? Let's watch until the end of the video to find out the answer. Welcome to my channel. Today's story is about Sarah and the crumpled dollar bill she received from a stranger. Surely we've all had those days when it feels like the universe has it out for us. For Sarah, it happened 3 years ago on a cold November morning. The sky hung low and gray, the color of wet cement, matching her mood as she dragged herself down Fifth Avenue with what felt like the weight of the world on her shoulders. Just 24 hours earlier, she'd been sitting across from her manager, watching as the man's lips formed the words, "Company restructuring and your position has been eliminated." 12 years at the same marketing firm wiped away in a 15-minute conversation. When she got home, she found Mark, her lover, sitting on their couch, his suitcase already packed. "I've accepted that job offer in Seattle. I think we both know this isn't working anymore," he said, barely making eye contact. Sarah stood frozen in the doorway, still holding her box of desk plants, as he explained how they'd grown apart and become different people. Later that night, after he was gone, she checked her banking app. Between New York rent, student loans, and credit card debt, she had exactly $43.27 to her name. 6 years of living paycheck to paycheck had left her with nothing to fall back on. Sarah had always prided herself on bouncing back from whatever life threw at her, but sitting alone in that half-empty apartment, scrolling through job listings she wasn't qualified for, something inside her finally snapped. Losing a job, breaking up with a lover, having no money, this is really the worst scenario that can happen to a person. I have never been in such a situation before, but I understand that it is really an extremely difficult time. Finding a job in New York is not easy for anyone. You have to be the most outstanding among the outstanding people to be able to find a good job and get the expected salary. Living in one of the most famous and expensive cities in the world is an honor, but also a burden for those who want to try. But we should not give up our desires because of fear. Every difficulty will have a solution. Let me go back to the story to see how Sarah solved her problem. The next morning was gray and drizzly. Sarah forced herself to shower and step outside. Maybe a walk would clear her head. Maybe somehow things would work out. Instead, as she wandered through the bustling streets, reality hit her in waves. Everyone around her seemed to have purpose, direction, security, all the things she'd lost in a single day. She found herself in a small park, her legs giving out as she sank onto a bench, then slid down to the concrete path. The tears she'd been holding back finally broke free, streaming down her face as the light rain fell around her. For what seemed like forever, she sat there crying, her sobs mixing with the city noise. True to form, New Yorkers gave her a wide berth, looking away as they hurried past. Then someone approached. Through tear-blurred vision, she saw worn shoes stop in front of her. Looking up slowly, Sarah found herself staring into the weathered face of an elderly man. His clothes were threadbare, his gray beard unkempt, but his eyes had a clarity and kindness that cut straight through her despair. Without saying a word, he reached into his tattered coat and pulled out a dollar bill wrinkled and soft, like it had been treasured. "I can't take your money," Sarah managed to say, her voice breaking. He smiled then, a smile that transformed his entire face. "You need it more than I do right now," he said gently, pressing the bill into her palm. "You'll be okay." Before she could respond, he turned and walked away. Sarah sat there, staring at the crumpled dollar, feeling something shift inside her. It wasn't about the money $1 wouldn't fix her problems. It was that someone who clearly had so little had seen her pain and responded with generosity. She got up slowly and walked until she found a small coffee shop. She ordered the cheapest thing on the menu, a small black coffee, and handed over the crumpled dollar bill. The barista smiled as she gave Sarah her change, and Sarah found herself smiling back, the first real smile in days. She found a quiet corner and pulled out her notebook, beginning to write not job applications, but the story of the man who had given her his dollar. Writing had been Sarah's passion before practicality had steered her toward marketing. As she wrote about that simple act of kindness, the words just flowed, carrying emotions she hadn't let herself feel in years. She stayed until closing time, filling page after page. When she left, something had clicked into place, a decision. She would write her way out of this mess. The next day, she reached out to an old college friend who worked at a literary magazine. She spent the week crafting an essay about unexpected kindness centered around her moment in the park. When the piece was published, it resonated with readers in a way none of her marketing copy ever had. Other publications started reaching out, asking for more stories. Sarah lived on a shoestring, took whatever writing gigs she could find, and gradually built a portfolio. 6 months later, she landed a contract for a regular column. 3 months after that, a literary agent contacted her about turning her essays into a book. The book, The Economy of Kindness, wasn't a blockbuster, but found its audience people who, like Sarah, had experienced how small gestures could make all the difference in dark times. 1 year after that breakdown on the sidewalk, Sarah sat in a radio studio being interviewed about her journey. She shared the story of the homeless man and his dollar. It wasn't about the money, she explained. It was that this man, who had practically nothing, looked at me and saw someone worthy of his kindness. That single act changed how I saw myself. 2 days after the interview aired, she got an email that stopped her in her tracks. Dear Miss Collins, I was driving home when I heard your interview. The story you told about the homeless man who gave you $1, I believe that man was my father. The writer, James, explained that his father had once been a respected philosophy professor at Columbia University. 8 years earlier, Dr. Chun's younger son had been diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. The treatment wasn't covered by insurance, so Dr. Chun had sold everything to pay for it, his savings, his home, even his rare book collection. When that wasn't enough, he took out loans he could never repay. The treatment saved his son's life, but the financial burden destroyed Dr. Chun. After his divorce, he spiraled into depression and eventually disappeared. His family had been searching ever since. The man you described, James wrote, sounds exactly like him. My father always believed compassion was the highest form of wisdom. Even when he had nothing left, he would give his last dollar to someone in need. Sarah responded immediately, and they arranged to meet the next day. James arrived carrying a photograph, a distinguished-looking man in academic robes at a university ceremony. The contrast with the man she'd met was stark, but the eyes were unmistakably the same. We've hired investigators, searched shelters, hospitals, James explained. My brother's in remission now, and all he wants is to find Dad. With James's permission, Sarah wrote a follow-up piece about Dr. Chun's story and their search for him. 3 days later, a social worker from an East Village shelter called. Dr. Chun had been staying there off and on for about a year. Sarah and James went to the shelter together. And there he was, sitting by a window, reading a worn paperback. Sarah hung back as James approached his father. She watched Dr. Chun look up, confusion giving way to recognition, then to something like shame. When James hugged him, Dr. Chun stayed stiff for a moment before slowly hugging his son back. Sarah was about to slip away when James waved her over. Dr. Chun looked at her with those same kind eyes, though he didn't seem to recognize her at first. Dad, James said gently, this is the woman you helped that day in the park, the one with the dollar. Understanding dawned in his eyes, followed by a small smile. "You look better now," he said simply. "Because of you," Sarah replied, barely above a whisper. "Your kindness changed everything for me." Dr. Chun's story didn't end there. With support from his sons and former colleagues, he got treatment for his depression and slowly rebuilt his life. The university created a special position for him, teaching ethics to freshmen. His personal journey of sacrifice, loss, and redemption became a powerful teaching tool. Sarah wrote Dr. Chun's full story with his blessing for her second book. But more importantly, she found her true calling, showing the world the extraordinary impact of ordinary compassion. They stayed connected, bound by that random moment of kindness that had rippled outward in ways neither could have imagined. Every year, on the anniversary of their first meeting, they have coffee together. He always insists on paying, with a smile that says he remembers. Sometimes Sarah thinks about how differently things might have gone if he had just walked past her that day, if he had kept his dollar. One small choice changed the direction of multiple lives. Dr. Chun had lost everything: his career, his marriage, his home, his dignity, but he never lost his kindness. Even at rock bottom, when society had forgotten his humanity, he remembered hers. That's the lesson Sarah carries with her. Sometimes, a single act of compassion is all it takes to change a life. We never know when our smallest gesture might be someone else's turning point. In a world obsessed with grand gestures and viral moments, it's easy to forget the power of simple human connection. But these quiet exchanges are what truly hold our society together and visible. Threads of kindness stretching between strangers, creating a safety net stronger than any institution. So the next time you see someone struggling, remember Dr. Chun. You don't need money or power to change a life. Sometimes all it takes is a dollar and a smile. Has someone's kindness changed your life? Tag them in the comments and let them know what their actions meant to you. Sometimes people have no idea how their small gesture made all the difference. Hit like if you believe kindness still matters in today's world, and subscribe for more stories that remind us we're all in this together. Remember, we're all just walking each other home. Thanks for watching, and here's hoping this story inspires you to both give and receive kindness with an open heart.